Hi, I'm Alan of God and Gigs, and if you're like me, you probably felt for most of your creative or musical life that money management and the music industry didn't mix, that there was always some problem with going from gig to gig, paycheck to paycheck, and never feeling like you really had control of your finances. Well, that was me, but in this video and in this episode, I'm going to tell you how I overcame that using a system that truly revolutionized the way I look at my business, even after being in the industry for over 20 years. I want to show you how I did that, and let's get into it right away. Hello, I'm Alan of God and Gigs. Thank you for joining us and making this podcast a part of your creative day. It's my pleasure and honor to bring you information, inspiration, encouragement, and helping you to transform your creative life from the inside out by applying timeless spiritual principles to the temporary creative problems that you may face every day. And if you're new to the show, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving us a chance to share and for just taking a chance on this, because there's a million podcasts you could watch or listen to, and you decided to pick this one. So I appreciate that. So please check it out. Listen to more episodes. Go back and review and subscribe to the show after you've gotten the gist of what we're sharing, because I believe you're among friends. As a freelancer, creative, artist, anyone that connects the dots between the spiritual life and the practical life, and you're basically working in the mainstream music and arts industry, but definitely also having a Christian or faith-focused background. Well, today I'm going to jump right into the topic, and the topic is money, money, something that nobody in any part of life ever gets away from. If you've got anything regarding bills on your mind or how to make it from day to day, everyone, we all know there's no way to avoid it. Money is part of our everyday life, and it's really part of survival. If you can't make money, you really can't make a living, which means you can't live the life that God wanted you to live, much less live a life of even feeling like you can make it from day to day. So money is really at the core of a lot that we do. Now, as creatives, especially those of us who are faith-focused, we don't like to talk about this in terms of needing to get money because it feels selfish. For many of us, we'd like to say this is all for God. We're doing this for our passion, for our purpose. We don't like to talk about the money issue being the core issue that's important until those bills arrive, until you have to make that project budget, until it's like your wife or your kids look at you and say, okay, is this an expensive hobby? Because we need something on the table. So that's why I wanted to jump in, because even after my tender age of 40 something years old, I still feel like I had never quite gotten a handle on money management and treating my creative life as a business. Now, that's after I've built several mini brands, as I've called them, after I've run businesses, after I've been in ministry, after I've been a musician and created things that were bringing in income, and raising 3 kids and having a wife and having a mortgage. All these things still left a hole in between my understanding of money and how to manage it in my business and the day-to-day operations. So I'm going to tell you basically where I came from and then jump into the solution that really helped me get this right over the last 6 months. So around, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, I finally got around to incorporating my business. And that's, again, something I should have done a long time ago. But many people think that, well, I start in a creative lifestyle, I get into a business, I just start getting gigs, I start getting projects, and I put it in my personal account, and I pay my bills. That's pretty much what I was doing. I did have some 9-to-5 jobs as a teacher for a long time, then as a minister of music for a while, and then I started to continue as a freelancer and working other jobs where I would get, 1099s, and I would still get W-2s from now and again from different things that I was doing for a long term. But it all went to my personal account, and I might have had a business account on the side, but honestly, it was a glorified personal account. Let's just be honest that many of us who are saying we're in business, we don't truly separate our personal and our business finances. And that, by almost every single financial expert you go to, is a no-no. Not only in terms of the taxes and being able to confirm what's a business expense and what's a personal expense, but more importantly, in my case, it didn't help me develop the mindset that my business should survive on its own, that the business expenses and the business income should equal each other so that at least they're breaking even, and then the profit or the payment to my personal account would come out of the actual business income and the profit that came from the business, and not simply throwing everything into both pots and then pretending that I really was running a business. That was a key mindset that I should have thrown out, and being very transparent, I never did until I read the book that I'm going to tell you about now. Now, the book is called Profit First. I hope I pronounced the author's name right, because he says it himself. He can barely, have people type it. So he always shortens it or tells them to do something else. But I want to say it's Mike Michaelowicz. So Mike, if I pronounce your name wrong, please tell me on this video or on this podcast, and then tell me that I can fix it later in editing or something. But when I found this book through yet another business coach that I was following, and I heard them talking about profit first, and the name intrigued me. It's like, what do you mean profit first? Every single book I've ever read says profit is last. You get your income and then you take out all your expenses, and what's left over is profit. So I found out that this book has been around for a few years now and has been a huge bestseller, but has been kind of controversial for that very reason. So I don't want to break down everything about the book. I definitely will put a link of it in the description, so you can go check it out right away and read it. I actually got it on audiobook, and then I downloaded the PDF, not the PDF, the print book, the Kindle, for myself so I could take notes. So I definitely recommend this book. So anything that I share that you need to get some more information on, just go read it so you can see what it's really about from start to finish and all the steps. I'm just going to tell you how it changed my mentality and the short little summary of principles that made a difference right away. So the basic premise of Profit First is we ditch the idea that, number one, that your business is supposed to somehow just survive, just kind of make its way, make as much money as you can, pay everything you can, and then what's left over is your profit. The goal of Profit First is to change your mindset to the point that your business is supposed to make you money. Now, creatives, I want to hit you right away. This is something that radically changed my mindset just in the last 6 months, because I read this around around May or June of 2021. And at that time, I still felt like, even though I wanted my income to grow, I never really thought of my business being a profit generator first. I thought that I was supposed to build it up and get lots and lots of things going, and then at the end, I would see profits eventually come through. But Mike Michaelowicz explains that our mindset has to be the profit comes first. I pay myself first. Now, many of you might have said this already to yourselves, and you might have said that even when I started talking about this. Well, yeah, you should pay yourself first. You should save first. But this is not even about paying myself in terms of saving or paying myself in terms of owner's pay. He is giving an advocation that you should set aside your profit, the extra money, first. Now, those of us who are Christian, who are tithing, you might already say, well, wait, God gets his first, right? Well, don't worry, that came as well. I am also now very clear on how to tithe from my business and my income, so that that always comes as a part of the percentages. But I don't want to get too far into it. So the key mindset shift was, let me figure out a way that my money is always going toward what am I going to gain from this transaction? What am I going to gain from my business? Instead of working on my business and my business working me to death. That's the way I was feeling. So what happened was I started to take these principles that Mike Michaelowicz talked about in the book. One of them is dividing up my accounts. Now, I already told you, my business account used to be pretty much a glorified savings account, a glorified personal account. What I decided to do is follow his mandate of setting up bank accounts that are strictly for the thing that I'm spending, recurring expenses only, for taxes only, for profit only, for operating expenses only. When I started to separate those accounts, actual bank accounts, and yes, I had to go find a new bank, separate all of my new accounts in the old accounts, open up new bank accounts. It was a hassle, but it was worth it. Because remember, I've been a creative and I've been in business doing things pretty much the same way as far as money management the entire time. Me forcing myself around last year to break everything down, reformat my bank accounts, open up new accounts, and then set up those particular percentages where I would say, okay, 2%, 3%, whatever percent always will go into the profit or the tax, or 60% or 50% or 40% will always go into the operating expenses. And I will watch that operating expenses account like a hawk. Because it's a separate bank account and not just a spreadsheet thing, I actually saw the numbers and it finally made sense to me. How much was I actually spending? Now, I know some of you, well, most of us creatives are not really money nerds. But if you are a money nerd and you're saying, no, 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 you need to have a spreadsheet, you need to be in your mind, that's just not the way most of us operate. And that's something that Profit First made very clear. We now operate in the idea of really just seeing the bank balance, and that's how we operate. So he says, use that to your advantage. Set up bank accounts that actually fit what you do. And then the bank account becomes the line item or the category of your business. So let me fast forward. 6 months later, after I finally took everything apart, took my financial management and said, okay, I'm going to follow the Profit First system, not only in my business accounts, but also revamped our personal accounts. Let me tell you what's happened. What has happened is I no longer stress about my recurring expenses because I know exactly how much is in that particular account. I have now started seeing that I can take withdrawals from my profit account. And again, if you read Profit First, I don't want to break down the entire system. I just want to give you like a quick synopsis of why things like this can radically change your mindset so that you can actually start profiting from your business and your creative life right now. I started seeing that, hey, I've already set aside money and I can take it out and I can use it just for fun. What a crazy concept, right? Your profit being used for fun right off the top, instead of saying it has to be resown, reinvested back into the business. Yes, there's a place for debt reduction in that, and I've been able to start working on that a lot more. But the key element is that now there is a system in place that I know what the percentages are, and I always put them in the right box, in the right bucket, so that the money is there. Corporation fees, taxes, everything that I knew was going to have to be paid has been paid. It's no longer a question because the bank account is there and the money simply flows to where it's supposed to flow. And my percentages changed incrementally, where I am slowly lowering my operating expenses, slowly picking up my profit and my owner's pay percentages. And I'm starting to see, well, thank God, we noticed that our tax liability, because I'm watching that even carefully, has also gone way down. So now there's some tax money that we can kind of play around with and start figuring out, okay, maybe we need to apply that more to our operating expenses. Maybe I need to invest a little more. Maybe I need to get a better camera that I'm talking in right now, some better studio stuff. But everything changed from the mentality shift of not letting my business work me, but my business should be working for me. My creative life, my gigs, everything should be working toward a profit first. Then making sure my expenses are low enough that I still have a profit margin. And then finally, of course, making sure that I can take care of all my other obligations. And as I've told you, I'm really seeing that my pay to myself should be going higher. I don't like knowing that when I get a gig check or when I get a payment from a freelancer or from a client, that 90% of it's going to go right out the door. Now I like saying, hey, I would like to have a little bit more of that, please, to stay in my bank account. And instead of throwing the whole thing into personal accounts where, number one, it's not being tracked. And number two, it's not really business. And number three, I don't know what percentage is really going toward my business. Now it's really clear what happens to my money. And like Dave Ramsey likes to say, every dollar has a name. So I hope you can see now, if you are still in that mindset of, wait, I just need to make more money. I just need to get more in the pot. I just need to make more from gigs. I need to make more from my performances. I need to get more sales. Well, yes and no. Because if you make more sales, get more gigs, make more money from your performances, but the bucket is totally confused and it's one big bucket that the money's flowing in and out of, and you don't know where it's going, and most importantly, you're not putting profit first. You're not setting aside those giving, those tithes and offering, that profit, that tax. You're not setting aside those percentages directly every single month and every single week. You're going to find yourself struggling. So I've given you an overview of how Profit First has really revolutionized my mindset and how I am now managing my finances, even in Paul Creative Services and God and Gigs and Let's Keep the Music Playing and all my other brands and things that I'm doing. Now I've got a system that works. And I'm telling you, if you are interested in this, definitely go pick up Profit First. Consider changing. Yes, it is a hassle. Changing all of your bank accounts to fit those 5 categories I mentioned. You can read about them in the book, but they are operating expenses, tax, profit, owner's pay, and recurring expenses. Well, let me say that one more time. I think I mixed up last one. I'll say it's profit, tax, operating expenses, owner's pay. Oh, and income. I almost forgot. The income, as you can probably tell, is simply income. There's nothing that flows out of the income account. It's simply a bucket that everything goes in and then goes out to the other 4 accounts. Now, recurring expenses and stuff like that, that's more operating expenses, and it's also my personal account. That's how I do things. So that's why my numbers and my names got a little mixed up there. But this hopefully has given you a key point to think about, something that you're going to take to the next 5, 6, 7 months and say, hey, wait a minute. I read the book. I took some of those advice, those strategies that Alan mentioned, and now I feel so much more confident about my money management situation as a creative, as somebody that maybe doesn't even follow budgets all the time and doesn't like to talk about spreadsheets and taxes and all this stuff. And as I'm recording this at the end, or the beginning, I should say, of 2022, it's probably pretty important as we get ready for tax season that you know what came in and what came out. And this is a great way to start the year, making sure that you get that in order for 2022. Okay, that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening for this creative checkup style episode where I share something that just kind of gets to the heart of a matter that I know will bless you and benefit you as a creative. And I continue to implore you, let's continue doing anything we can do to make you become the creative that you were created to be, because that's what God wants for you. That's why he put the talent inside you. And that's what God and Gigs is here to help you continue to do. God bless you, and we'll see you next episode.